Hey guys, tonight we step into a time when the air itself told stories. You are standing in the middle of a medieval town square, just as the first light spills over crooked rooftops, and what you smell is complicated. It is bread, smoke, damp stone, and something you cannot quite name. You probably would not survive this first breath, to be honest, at least not without a dramatic cough and an urgent wish for modern plumbing. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And since I always like to know where my travelers are tuning in from, tell me your location and the time right now down in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward through air that feels alive, a living tapestry of odors, warmth, and whispers. The bakery S-hearth exhales a wave of toasted grain, while somewhere nearby a blacksmith hammers rhythm into the morning, each strike sending sparks and the faint tang of metal into the mix. You can almost taste the marketplace forming. The butcher's stall unwraps its wares, the fishmonger lifts a lid, and suddenly the entire lane feels like a stew of humanity. People move past you in layers of wool and linen that have not seen soap for a while, yet they walk proud, unbothered, and cheerful. Historians still wonder if people of that age even noticed such smells, or if their senses had simply adapted to life's natural perfume. You look around and realize that nothing about this world is sanitized. A child chases a stray chicken across uneven stones, the hen leaves a gift on the cobblestone, and no one flinches. A woman pours water from an upstairs window, shouting a quick warning in case anyone below minds. Most do not. Even the dogs seem content, their tails sweeping through puddles that might be questionable by your standards. But there is warmth here, not disgust. The smells are part of the rhythm, like background music that keeps everyone connected. A breeze drifts by, carrying the aroma of tallow candles melting inside a small chapel. The air thickens with incense, the floral kind meant to mask reality but never quite succeeding. You catch a hint of rosemary tucked in someone's sleeve, and another of smoke clinging to a cloak. Together they form a strange harmony, earthy, yet somehow comforting. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear what it smells like. The hum of beeswax, the sigh of baked clay, the hum of humanity just living. What fascinates you most is how normal it all feels once your senses settle. You start to notice subtler things, the sweetness of fresh hay in a cart, the mineral scent of the nearby stream, the faint perfume of apples from a vendor's basket. The town is not a dirty place. It is an honest one. Every scent tells you what is happening, who is cooking, who is working, who has just come in from the fields. You realize that cleanliness here is not about removing the world, but blending with it. A curious man beside you carries a pouch of herbs around his neck. He claims it keeps away bad airs, though what counts as bad is subjective when the entire town smells like a bakery married a chimney. He smiles and you catch a note of mint, sharp and oddly refreshing. Maybe he believes it works, or maybe he just likes the attention of smelling slightly different. Historians still debate whether such pouches were truly for health or for vanity. You decide it might be both. A bell rings somewhere in the distance, slow, measured, grounding. The market stirs fully now, chatter rising like smoke, blending with the rhythmic clop of hooves on stone. A breeze shifts again, and for a brief second, you smell everything at once. Bread, animals, humans, herbs, fire, life. It is chaotic and oddly perfect. You might even find yourself smiling because, against every expectation, it is not unbearable. It is simply real. Then the wind changes again, carrying with it something else, something less romantic but equally revealing. You glance toward the alleyway and see where last night's rain pooled with what you prefer not to describe. This is the side of medieval life no tapestry paints. You hold your breath for a moment, yet the townsfolk pass by unfazed. For them, this is ordinary, a scent that means home. You start to suspect that the very definition of clean depends on what you grow up breathing. You take another slow breath, letting your modern discomfort fade. Beneath the layers of smoke and sweat, there is something alive, something deeply human. Every breath here is proof of existence, of people who worked, laughed, and built lives out of imperfection. The smell becomes less of an assault and more of a conversation between centuries. Somewhere a baker laughs. Somewhere else a child sneezes and someone blesses them. The world moves on, fragrant and fearless. As the day unfolds, the air grows heavier, warmer, and somehow friendlier. The noise of trade turns into a hum that blends perfectly with your heartbeat. You realize you are not an outsider anymore. You are part of this place, its pulse, its scent. And as you adjust, the strangeness of it all begins to melt into familiarity. The medieval world no longer feels foreign. It feels alive, honest, and beautifully unfiltered. You wander further down the cobbled lane, guided by the rising warmth of the sun and the faint chatter of townsfolk starting their day. A small stream glimmers at the edge of the settlement, its surface dotted with reeds and the occasional curious duck. You notice something odd. No one is bathing in it. In fact, you have yet to see anyone with even a bucket of water for washing. That is when it hits you. Bathing is not part of daily life here. Not because they lack water, but because, in their minds, too much water on the body could actually cause harm. The idea of soaking in a tub for pleasure or hygiene would have sounded as peculiar to them as not owning a smartphone sounds to you. There were bathhouses once, yes, but they came and went like trends. More scandalous than sanitary. And in most towns, stepping into one was less about getting clean and more about socializing, gossiping, or in some cases, mischief. You can imagine the local gossip spreading faster than soap bubbles. The belief system of the era is a fascinating puzzle. People thought the skin acted like a sponge, porous, open to invisible airs that could seep into the body and cause sickness. So instead of washing off the world, they wore it proudly, letting sweat, dust, and smoke mingle into what they considered their natural layer of protection. A physician might have told you to wipe down with a damp cloth occasionally, but a full bath? That was almost suspicious behavior. Historians still argue whether this was purely superstition or a side effect of scarce resources. Either way, a bucket bath was an event, not a habit. Imagine the small wooden tub tucked in a corner of a cottage, filled just enough to cover your knees if you're lucky. The water is drawn by hand, heated over a fire and cooled with patience. By the time it is ready, half the village probably knows. You sit, tense, uncertain if this much exposure to water might be an invitation for unseen trouble. You hear someone outside laugh. Apparently you are wasting good heat. The truth is, bathing was work, not luxury. The process was so involved that most chose to skip it entirely and simply change their clothes, believing that fresh linen could pull away impurities the way a towel pulls water from skin. And yet, the idea of smelling bad was not quite the insult it is now. Everyone smelled like something: their job, their meals, their homes. So a farmer might carry the earth. A baker might carry the scent of yeast and smoke. A blacksmith, the tang of iron and sweat. It was identity, not embarrassment. You begin to realize that in this time, the human scent was not something to fight against. It was simply proof of life. Modern noses might rebel, but to them this was the fragrance of effort, of belonging. Still, not everyone abandoned bathing completely. Nobles and the wealthy occasionally indulged in baths scented with herbs and oils, lavender, sage, and sometimes rose petals if they could afford it. It was less about cleaning and more about softening the skin, relaxing the body, and showing off one's luxury. A noblewoman might invite a friend over not for tea, but for a shared soak, discussing fashion and alliances, while servants poured warm water from brass pitchers. Yet even then, a full bath was rare. Most preferred what was called dry washing, a mix of linen, perfume, and faith in divine protection against dirt. You walk past a wooden door left ajar and peek inside a small home. A family gathers around a fire, their faces lit by the dancing orange glow. A small pot steams over the flames, and beside it hangs a cloth, their version of a wash basin. They dip the linen, squeeze it out, and wipe their faces gently, almost reverently. The air smells faintly of soap made from animal fat and ashes. It is harsh, but it works. They share a single piece of cloth among them, folding it carefully between turns, as if it carries more value than gold. You can feel the quiet pride in their routine. They are not unclean, they are resourceful. At that moment, something surprising happens. The eldest child notices you watching and grins, holding up the damp cloth as if showing off their prize. You nod politely, resisting the urge to offer them a bottle of shampoo from the future. They would not understand it anyway. To them, your world would seem obsessive, endlessly scrubbing away the evidence of being alive. Perhaps there is something poetic in their simplicity. You feel it in the air, that blend of earth and humanity that no perfume could ever replicate. Outside again, you pass a group of travelers unpacking near the town gate. They carry small leather pouches filled with herbs, and when they see your puzzled expression, one of them laughs. "It keeps away bad spirits," he says proudly. You smile, realizing it is their version of deodorant, except it also doubles as medicine, protection, and charm. They toss sprigs of rosemary into their campfire, letting the smoke curl around them like invisible armor. You find yourself breathing it in too, and for the first time since arriving here, the air feels oddly refreshing. As you continue your walk, the sounds of the town fade into the background. You notice the rhythm of life here is slower, deliberate, unbothered by what we would call inconvenience. People are not chasing cleanliness, they are chasing comfort in their own way. Their rituals may seem strange to you, but there is wisdom in them, born of survival, not ignorance. You begin to suspect that maybe, just maybe, there is more to learn from this world than you thought. The wind shifts again, carrying the scent of burning wood from a nearby cottage. It mingles with the sweetness of herbs and the musk of wool, creating a perfume only time could invent. You take another deep breath, and for a fleeting moment, you almost prefer it. You keep walking until the road curves toward a row of houses, their wooden beams leaning like old friends trying to hold one another upright. The morning sun catches the fluttering linen hanging between windows, sheets, undershirts, tunics, all crisp and pale, swaying like gentle waves in a sea of rooftops. It looks clean, fresh, almost heavenly. Then a thought hits you. These people have not bathed in weeks, yet their clothes are spotless. How is that possible? You step closer, and the secret literally brushes against your face. Linen, the fabric that quietly carried the burden of cleanliness when soap and water could not. The townsfolk may not wash their bodies often, but they scrub these garments until their knuckles go white. And that, oddly enough, makes all the difference. You pass a woman at a washtub, her hands red from lye and cold water. She hums softly as she beats a tunic against a smooth stone, the rhythm oddly satisfying. The air smells faintly of ash, grass, and effort. She glances up at you with a smirk, as if daring you to call her dirty. You would not dare. This is her daily battle with the invisible, a ritual of scrubbing, rinsing, wringing, and drying. The water in her bucket is grey now, but her satisfaction is pure gold. Historians still debate whether linen's natural properties helped keep people healthier, or if it was simply wishful thinking. But one thing is certain, a fresh shirt was more than fashion. It was pride, comfort, and social armor. You look closer at the fabric. It is soft, yet sturdy, smelling faintly of smoke and wildflowers from where it dried near the hearth. It feels alive somehow, like a second skin that has seen everything. You imagine slipping one on after days of wearing the same rough wool tunic. It must have felt like being reborn. That crisp, cool touch of freshly washed linen against skin would have been a luxury greater than perfume. The act of changing clothes, rather than bathing, was the medieval version of self-care. A clean shirt could make you feel civilized again, even if your feet told a different story. A boy nearby runs past you wearing what looks like 3 layers of linen. His hair sticks out like straw, and his grin is missing a few teeth, but he moves with confidence. His shirt is bright white against the dusty air, and you can tell his mother worked hard to make it that way. To her, this is proof she is a good caretaker, that her family carries dignity no matter how rough life gets. You realize the medieval obsession with linen was not about cleanliness, it was about respectability. Even if the air smelled like smoke and humanity, one crisp tunic could make you feel worthy. You turn a corner and see rows of laundry lines stretching across an alley like a canopy. The fabrics sway gently, whispering secrets to each other in the wind. You swear you can smell sunlight itself, the warm, faintly metallic scent that comes from hours of drying in open air. It reminds you that nature did most of the cleaning back then. No chemical detergents, no dryer sheets, just wind, water, and patience. You start to appreciate how simple that is and how effective. After all, these clothes have survived centuries in paintings and records, while modern ones barely survive a few washes before giving up. An older man notices your curiosity and waves you over. He is polishing a strip of linen, stretching it tight between his hands, examining it like a treasure. Keeps the body pure, he says proudly. Takes the dirt with it when you change it. He explains that the fabric pulls sweat and oil away from the skin, acting as a natural filter. It is the medieval version of skincare, except the routine involves a hammer, some ashes, and a lot of elbow grease. You nod as if you will try it later, though you both know you will not. Still, there is something admirable about his certainty. You cannot help but chuckle at the logic. People here genuinely believe that by keeping the linen clean, they keep themselves clean. It sounds naive at first, but when you think about it, they were not entirely wrong. Linen breathes, resists bacteria, and smells better than wool after a few days of human living. It is science dressed in superstition, and besides, washing clothes was far safer than washing bodies in cold or contaminated water. It was, in every way, the smarter choice. As you wander through the alleys, the rhythm of laundry fills the air. The splash of water, the creak of wooden basins, the slap of wet cloth on stone. It feels like a heartbeat, steady and communal. Every home contributes to it, every wall echoing a tune of domestic survival. Somewhere, a woman laughs as her neighbor's line collapses under too much weight, a cascade of damp tunics falling into the mud. The laughter spreads, light and real. You find yourself smiling too. Even in a world without scented soaps or shiny bathrooms, there is joy in the simple act of keeping something clean. The sun dips a little lower, and golden light spills through the spaces between sheets. You reach out and brush the edge of one as you pass. It is cool, smooth, and smells faintly of wood smoke and wind. For a moment you understand why they cherished it so deeply. In a life surrounded by grit and work, linen offered one small rebellion against decay. It was a reminder that even in a smoky, crowded town, people still sought grace in their own way. You take another breath, the air a little lighter now, the mix of clean fabric and hearth fire oddly comforting. The town feels softer somehow, less harsh, as if the hanging linens themselves are breathing for everyone. You realize that in this world, cleanliness was not a matter of water and soap. It was a state of mind, a quiet defiance against the chaos of daily life. You step through the alley, and for a brief second the linen catches the light just right, making the whole street glow. And you think, maybe this place is not dirty after all. It is just alive. The scent of soap hits you before you even see it. Faint but distinct. Sharp, earthy, and strangely comforting. You follow your nose until you reach a narrow stall, wedged between a Baker Air doorway and a stack of firewood. Inside, a man with arms like tree trunks and fingers coated in ash is stirring something thick in a clay pot. He glances up, squints, and grins. "You smell that?" he asks proudly, lifting the spoon. Cleanliness. You look closer and realize he is boiling animal fat and wood ash together. A mixture that looks more like a potion than anything you would willingly touch. This is medieval soap. Primitive, harsh, and as necessary as it was unpleasant. You are tempted to back away, but curiosity holds you in place. He scoops up a bit of the paste with his hands, smearing it onto a wooden paddle, and you can see the pride in his work. The scent is smoky, not floral, but there is a sincerity in it. You are watching one of the rare luxuries of the era being made before your eyes. He explains that most people cannot afford soap, that only nobles and certain townsfolk indulge in it. For everyone else, it is ashes, sand, or simply a vigorous scrub with cold water and good intentions. You imagine how your hands would feel after washing with something made from burned bones and lye, probably like parchment left too close to a fire. Still, this man looks content, as if he holds some secret of purity no one else has mastered. He gestures for you to smell it again, and you do. It stings your nose but clears your mind, sharp and alive. For a brief second, you wonder if this is what clean truly smelled like back then. A woman arrives to buy a small lump of the greyish soap, wrapped carefully in linen scraps. She looks at it as if it were gold. You can tell she will not waste a single bit. Soap is not for daily bathing. It is for special occasions, stains that matter, and ceremonies where cleanliness is symbolic. You picture her saving it for her child's christening, or perhaps for the linen she will wear on a feast day. In this world, soap is not just hygiene, it is status. Historians still argue whether medieval people truly cared about cleanliness, or if it was all just ritual and display. But standing here, watching this woman cradle her small grey treasure, you suspect it was both. You take a seat near the stall, your curiosity tugging you deeper. The soap maker chuckles and tells you that long ago, even Romans had soap-like substances, though they preferred oil and scraping tools. Somewhere along the way, people forgot, and then remembered again. He claims the best soap comes from the city of Marseille, far to the south, where they use olive oil instead of tallow. Smells like the gods, he says wistfully. You imagine that. Soap that smells of sunlit groves instead of smoky kitchens. The idea feels almost magical, like something out of a dream. The man's apprentice stirs the pot, sending bubbles rising and popping in lazy rhythm. Each burst releases another puff of that acrid, earthy scent. You notice how people passing by wrinkle their noses but still look intrigued. Soap carries both fascination and suspicion. It is useful, but it is also alchemy. It transforms filth into foam, and that feels like sorcery. You smile at the thought, how in every age, humans love anything that makes them feel they are outsmarting nature, even if it burns their skin a little. A splash of the mixture lands on the apprentice's sleeve, and he yelps, shaking his arm. The soap maker laughs, not unkindly, and dips a cloth into a basin of water, dabbing the boy's hand with the tenderness of a father. "It bites before it blesses," he mutters. You realize that in this simple moment, centuries of progress rest on such small acts. The balancing of harshness and care, chemistry and compassion. The scene feels almost poetic. You find yourself wondering how something so humble could one day evolve into the perfumed soaps of modern bathrooms. The woman returns moments later, handing over a coin and taking her parcel with both hands. She nods at you as she leaves, eyes soft with gratitude. Maybe she is thinking of how that soap will make her feel. Fresh, dignified, renewed. Maybe she simply enjoys the scent, harsh as it is. Either way, she walks away lighter. You glance at the soap maker again, who is now humming as he pours the cooling mixture into molds. You realize he is not just making soap, he is making confidence one batch at a time. Outside, the wind shifts, carrying the scent of the stall down the narrow street. It mingles with bread, smoke, and the faint sweetness of hay. The town breathes it in, an invisible promise that even in a world of dirt and dust, people still chase purity. You take another breath yourself, and despite everything, you find it oddly pleasant. It smells like work, survival, and a kind of beauty that does not need perfume. You realize that in the medieval world, cleanliness was not about erasing the smell of life. It was about honoring it. As you turn to leave, the soap maker calls after you. "You will not forget this smell," he says, smiling knowingly. And he is right. It will cling to your memory like smoke to fabric, a strange, honest fragrance that tells the truth of its time. You take one last look at the bubbling pot, glowing in the afternoon light, and think about how something so simple could shape entire centuries of human habit. Soap was more than a cleaning tool, it was an act of hope. As the day leans toward late afternoon, you wander through the twisting streets and catch a new scent, one that is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, just human. It drifts from the open windows and narrow alleys, a mix of sweat, smoke, and cooked onions. This is not filth, it is the perfume of daily life. You follow it until you find yourself standing before a large wooden structure, with steam curling from its roof. A sign above the door reads something in Latin you can barely make out, but the smell tells you all you need to know: a public bathhouse. You did not expect this. People of the Middle Ages bathing together. It feels like stepping into a contradiction. You push open the door, and the world inside hums with warmth, chatter, and the sound of water lapping against stone. The first thing that hits you is the heat. Moist air wraps around you, soft and heavy like a damp blanket. The second is laughter, echoing, carefree, and unmistakably alive. Men and women in long, modest linens move through the mist, chatting as if they were in a tavern instead of a bath. It is not quite the Roman grandeur you might imagine. This place is smaller, cozier, and built from wood instead of marble. Buckets clatter, steam rises, and candles flicker in little clay holders along the walls. You half expect the room to smell like unwashed humanity, but it doesn't. It smells faintly of herbs, smoke, and hot stone. Someone has tossed a handful of rosemary and thyme into the water, and the result is strangely soothing. You take a deep breath, and your lungs hum with warmth. A woman scrubbing her arms looks up at you and grins. "Join us before it cools," she says, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. You hesitate, but her tone is so casual, so inviting, that it almost feels rude to refuse. You step closer and dip your fingers into the pool. It is hotter than you expected, the kind of heat that bites before it soothes. Around you people gossip, sing softly, and argue about local markets and marriages. There is no shame, no embarrassment, just humanity stripped of pretense and dirt alike. You realize that in the early medieval world, bathhouses were as common as bakeries. In some towns, people bathed several times a week, sometimes daily, until fears of disease later made such habits fade. You glance toward the corner, where an elderly man pours steaming water over a boy's head with exaggerated ceremony. The boy squeals, laughter echoing through the room. It feels like a festival disguised as hygiene. The man catches your eye and shrugs. "Water is a blessing," he says. "Why waste it?" You nod, though you know not everyone could afford such luxury. Most peasants may do with a basin and a cloth, if that. But here, within these steamy walls, class and dirt dissolve together. For a brief hour, everyone is equal beneath the mist. Then, like all good things in history, it starts to fade. You overhear two women whispering about rumors from the city, that the new physicians claim baths invite sickness, that warm water opens the pores to corruption. You almost laugh. The same act that cleanses now frightens them. Within a few generations, many bathhouses will close, and people will begin to fear the very steam that once comforted them. Historians still debate whether this shift came from religion, disease, or paranoia. But the result was the same: centuries of soapless solitude. You wonder what it must have felt like to watch something so ordinary slowly become scandalous. Still, here and now the bathhouse thrives. You move to the side and watch a young woman refill a bucket from the main pool. Her arms glisten in the candlelight, her linen sleeves rolled up to the elbows, and for a moment she looks like a priestess in some ancient ritual. The air hums with warmth and voices, each one rising and falling like waves. There is something deeply human about this, an instinct to gather, to cleanse together, to find comfort in shared warmth. It reminds you that cleanliness, in its purest form, is not about removing dirt, it is about restoring spirit. You find a quiet spot near a wall and sit for a while. The wooden boards beneath you are warm, and droplets from the ceiling fall rhythmically into the water below. You close your eyes and just listen. The shuffle of feet, the murmured jokes, the clink of buckets. Someone hums an old song, slow and wistful. The sound floats through the steam like a memory half forgotten. You almost drift off right there, lulled by the rhythm of it all. This world may smell different, but it feels so alive, so unfiltered, so strangely comforting. As you rise to leave, you glance once more around the room. The faces are soft, flushed, content. No one seems to care how they smell or look, just that for now they are clean enough and warm enough. The bathhouse door creaks as you push it open, and a rush of cool evening air washes over you. Outside, the streets are dim again, the day's noise fading into the distance. The smell of smoke returns, but it no longer feels harsh. It feels like the world exhaling after a long sigh. You take one last look back at the steaming doorway and realize, even in an age without perfume or plumbing, people still found ways to feel human. The evening breeze follows you out of the bathhouse, cool against your still warm skin. The town is quieter now, cloaked in soft gold light and wood smoke. You wander down a narrow lane lined with low, timbered houses, their shutters cracked open just enough to let the last sunlight spill inside. You hear a faint buzzing, flies of course, but not as many as you would expect. A woman stands outside, tossing herbs into a smoking pan. The scent drifts over to you, sage, lavender, and something sharp like vinegar. She waves the smoke toward her doorway with the practiced flick of someone who has done this every evening of her life. Keeps the bad air away, she says, not even looking up. You ask what she means and she smiles faintly. The sickness travels in smells, she replies. You nod slowly, realizing that in this world, scent is not just a nuisance. It is a warning, a superstition, and a survival strategy. You continue walking, and soon the air thickens with the fragrance of herbs. Every doorway seems to host a tiny fire or bundle of dried plants. Rosemary, mint, marjoram, even crushed juniper berries. Their aroma mixes with smoke and damp earth, creating a symphony of scents that feels both chaotic and strangely deliberate. You pass one home where a man stands by his window, rubbing a mixture of vinegar and crushed garlic onto the sill. He looks at you seriously and says, "Keeps the foul spirits out." You thank him, though you cannot decide if he means spirits of disease or spirits of gossip. Perhaps both. Historians still wonder how much of medieval life was guided by belief and how much by instinct. But here the line blurs beautifully. Farther ahead you come across a group of women sitting on a stoop, weaving garlands of flowers. Their fingers move with lazy precision, looping stems and whispering stories as they work. One plucks a handful of wild basil and hands it to you. "Carry this," she says. "It will keep your scent sweet and your heart safe." You take it politely, though the basil smells more like a stew ingredient than perfume. Still, it is oddly comforting to hold something alive in your hand after a day spent among smoke and stone. You tuck it into your belt, and for a moment, the air around you feels fresher. You notice how the people here do not think of smell the way modern minds do. There is no concept of deodorant or artificial freshness. Odor to them is communication. A baker smells of flour and fire, a blacksmith of iron and sweat, a shepherd of wool and open air. These scents are identities, badges of life. You realize how alien modern sterility would seem here, how empty even. A world that smells of nothing would mean a world without proof of living. The realization hits gently but deeply. You inhale again, and this time every scent tells a story. The crackling of fat in a pan, the sweetness of fermenting cider, the faint animal musk drifting from the stables. It is all alive. A sudden gust carries a new smell, one far less poetic. You wrinkle your nose and glance toward the street's edge. A man is emptying a bucket into a trench that runs along the cobblestones. The liquid glistens faintly in the fading light, and you quickly realize that this is the town's version of plumbing. You take a strategic step back, just in time to avoid a splash. The man shrugs unapologetically. "Better outside than in," he says with a grin. You cannot argue with that logic. The street channel carries it away toward a distant stream, out of sight and hopefully out of mind. It dawns on you that medieval people did not mind these smells as much as you do. They lived alongside them, the way one lives with the sound of rain or the hum of bees. Discomfort fades when it becomes familiar. Still, there were attempts at freshness. You pass a tavern where someone has scattered rushes, sweet-smelling reeds across the floor. Each step crushes them slightly, releasing a mild, grassy perfume. The scent blends with ale and roasted meat, forming a fragrance that, oddly enough, feels cozy. This was their version of air freshener, replaced regularly to cover the inevitable build-up of life. You glance up at the rafters and spot bundles of dried lavender hanging like ornaments, swaying slightly in the heat. It feels rustic but intentional. These people knew how to make survival beautiful. As darkness deepens, the air cools and the scents sharpen. The night carries everything: the tang of the tannery, the sweetness of bread cooling on a sill, the faint rot of yesterday's waste. Together they create a smell that is neither good nor bad, but profoundly real. You stop beneath a flickering torch and close your eyes, breathing it all in. The medieval world was not a place that masked life. It celebrated it. Every odor, every wisp of smoke, every herbal charm told a story about who lived here and how they endured. You wonder if, in their own way, they loved these smells, not for what they were, but for what they meant. When you open your eyes again, the woman with the herbs is gone, her fire burned low. The air feels different now, cleaner somehow, though nothing tangible has changed. Maybe the scent of the evening, part smoke, part soil, part memory, has settled into your senses. It no longer feels foreign, it feels honest. And as you continue walking down the narrow, flickering lane, you realize that maybe people in this age did not mind the smell. because it was the smell of their own story, written in sweat, smoke, and rosemary. The road leads you toward the town's outer edge, where the houses thin and the open fields begin. The air here feels broader, less burdened by wood smoke and cooking fires, and for the first time in hours, you can actually taste freshness on your tongue. You pause near a fence where linen sheets flap lazily in the twilight breeze, their corners whispering against one another like gossiping ghosts. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolls once, deep and low, and the sound folds itself into the evening. You breathe in, expecting relief, but the countryside has its own language of smells, and it wastes no time in introducing itself. Damp soil, wet hay, a hint of manure, it all hits you at once, honest and unapologetic. It is the smell of survival itself. You wander farther until the road turns to packed earth, and ahead you see farmers finishing their day. One man lifts a wooden bucket filled with something that looks suspiciously like fertilizer, sloshing it across a field with cheerful indifference. Another scatters straw near a pen of pigs, humming tunelessly. You catch yourself smiling. There is something refreshingly open about it. Out here, no one bothers pretending that life is pristine. The scent of animals, crops, and sweat is not shameful. It is proof that things are growing. Even the wind participates, rolling everything together into one steady breath. You realize that for people in this age, smell was the pulse of nature. If you could smell it, it meant the world was alive. A farmer's wife calls out to you and waves you closer. She stands beside a bubbling pot hung over a low fire, stirring a stew that smells far better than anything you have encountered today. The fragrance is rich and meaty with a hint of herbs that remind you faintly of the bathhouse rosemary. She laughs when you comment on it. Cooking hides the scent of work, she says. Best perfume there is. She gestures for you to taste, and you do. It is simple, smoky, perfect. The warmth slides down your throat and melts the chill from your bones. You realize that smell here is more than background. It is how people read the world. They know by scent when bread will rise, when milk will sour, when rain is near. It is their calendar, their clock, their sixth sense. As dusk deepens, the horizon turns violet and the first stars prick the sky. The farmer and his wife gather their tools, moving with the slow grace of people who have done this every day of their lives. They smell of earth and labor and comfort. The woman wipes her hands on her apron and glances at you. City folk always wrinkle their noses, she says, smiling. But wait long enough and you will miss it when it's gone. You laugh softly, realizing she is probably right. Already the air feels addictive in its honesty. Historians still debate whether medieval people were truly unaware of odors or simply indifferent. But standing here, breathing this living tapestry, you understand. They did not ignore it. They belonged to it. You walk along the hedgerow as night settles fully and fireflies begin their quiet, flickering dance. The faint smell of wildflowers rises where your boots crush them. You think about how the townsfolk earlier burned herbs to chase away bad air, yet here in the fields, the same air feels pure and harmless. The difference is context. A city's smell warns, the countryside's reassures. You realize that medieval life was not divided between clean and dirty, but between safe and dangerous. Sense simply helped people tell the difference. Somewhere ahead, a dog barks, and a figure waves from the doorway of a small cottage. You approach, drawn by the glow inside. A tallow candle flickers on the table, its flame steady despite the breeze from the open window. The smell is thick, animal fat and smoke, but strangely homey. The man inside nods for you to enter. He is carving a block of wax, shaping it into new candles. Good light always smells, he says without looking up. If it does not, it is lying to you. You cannot help but smile at the poetry of it. The world here is honest about everything, even its flaws. You sit beside him for a moment, listening to the rhythmic scrape of his knife. Each curl of wax falls onto the table like a small white feather. He tells you that when the wind carries the scent of burning tallow across the fields, it means someone is home, someone is safe. It is a signal as much as a comfort. You begin to see that smell, for these people, is memory itself. The invisible thread tying them to one another across distance and time. As you step back outside, The night air folds around you like a blanket. The stars shimmer brighter now, mirrored faintly in puddles along the road. The smell of the countryside softens with the dew, less sharp, more tender, like a sigh. You breathe in deeply, the way you do before sleep, and realize that for all its grit, this world feels strangely pure. You smile to yourself. Maybe medieval people did smell strange, but only because they smelled real. The road fades behind you, but the world still hums quietly around your thoughts. It's strange how quickly your senses have adapted. What began as shock, an assault of sense and sensations, now feels almost natural. The smoky tang of the candle, the earthy sweetness of hay, the faint bitterness of sweat. They've become part of the rhythm. For a moment, you even wonder if you might start to miss it once you return to the sterile, scentless modern world. You glance up. The sky above the medieval landscape is endless, ink dark, scattered with stars so sharp they almost hurt to look at. The air carries the faint scent of rain that will arrive by morning. You remember what the farmer said earlier: if it smells like the world is turning, it's because it is. And it hits you. People of that age didn't live surrounded by filth out of ignorance. They lived surrounded by life. Every breath was proof of existence. You pass a group of travelers gathered near a dying campfire. Their cloaks are worn, their laughter soft. One of them plucks at a stringed instrument, and the melody drifts toward you, haunting, simple, eternal. The music smells like wood smoke and memory. Someone offers you a piece of bread, still warm from the fire. You break it open and inhale the yeast, the char, the faintest whisper of ash. It's the same scent that's existed for centuries, unchanged. As you eat, you notice how their faces glow in the firelight. Tired, content, unbothered. You realize something. To them, cleanliness isn't the absence of smell. It's comfort, it's warmth. It's the knowledge that they survived another day. When you've ploughed fields, hauled water and walked miles just to fetch wood, the scent of your own labor doesn't defend you. It reminds you that you've earned your rest. The oldest of the group looks at you curiously. "You're not from here," he says softly. You shake your head. He smiles faintly. "Then remember this," he adds, tapping the side of his nose. "The world never lost its smell. We just stopped paying attention." You sit in silence, watching the embers pulse and fade. Around you, the night breathes. The gentle hum of crickets, the far-off bleating of a sheep, the sigh of wind through the trees, it all mixes together into one living heartbeat. And suddenly, you understand why the people of the past didn't mind the way things smelled. They didn't separate themselves from the world, they belonged to it. Eventually, the fire dies down and the group curls up to sleep beneath the stars. You stand, brushing dust from your clothes, and take one last deep breath. The scent of the night lingers, smoke, earth, and something you can't name. Something older than time. You smile quietly. In a way, you're grateful for it, because in that smell lives every story, every life, every forgotten whisper of history that still refuses to fade. As you walk away, the horizon begins to glow faintly with the first light of dawn. The medieval world feels distant already, like a half-remembered dream, but the memory clings to you, not as an image, but as a scent that refuses to leave. And maybe that's the point, because history, no matter how distant, always leaves something in the air. You just have to breathe deeply enough to notice it. The sounds of the medieval world drift away slowly, like ripples moving outward across a quiet lake at dusk, spreading, folding, fading, until only stillness remains. The crackle of fire diminishes first, the warm orange glow softening in your mind as the embers settle into invisible ash, as if the day itself is exhaling after all its work. The hum of voices recedes gradually, leaving behind only the faintest memory of laughter, the ghost of words you cannot quite remember, but feel in your chest. Even the echo of your own footsteps along the cobblestones softens, smothered beneath the gentle weight of the night air, until there is nothing left but quiet. This stillness is not empty. It is a presence thick and comforting, wrapping itself around your body and your mind, like a velvet blanket, pressing softly, insistently, ensuring that every muscle, every thought, Every tiny shiver of tension unwinds and falls into its embrace. You can almost feel the heat of the hearth lingering on your skin, as though it has seeped into your very bones. A gentle glow that warms you from inside out, while the faint scent of candle smoke hangs lightly in your hair. Delicate and almost sweet now, no longer acrid but familiar, like a memory you have known your entire life but are only now remembering. The evening air carries a whisper of everything you have walked through today, as if the world itself has distilled the scents of labor and life into one lingering breath just for you. The faint tang of earth, the subtle sharpness of herbs tossed into fires, the lingering sweetness of dried flowers, the almost imperceptible musk of animals, the faint burn of cooking fires, all mingle gently around you, folding together into a scent you did not expect to find comforting. And yet here it is, comforting, calming, deeply human. You take one long, slow breath, letting it sink into your lungs and spread through your chest, and notice that with every inhale your shoulders drop further. Your neck loosens, your hands relax, your jaw softens, and your mind, which has wandered so far and so wide across centuries, begins to feel grounded, tethered to the quiet pulse of life here now in this moment. You notice the faint chill of evening creeping along the path where you walked, brushing against your ankles, threading along the backs of your knees, and yet it does not startle you. It is gentle, reassuring even, a reminder that you are alive, that the world moves around you in rhythms that you can trust. Somewhere in the distance, the night breathes against the rooftops, carrying a faint rustle of leaves from trees that sway softly in the breeze, whispering secrets you cannot quite understand, yet feel as truth. Each sound, each scent, each subtle vibration of the air around you wraps around your senses, layering itself like a warm shawl that you do not wish to remove, a cocoon of comfort and history that settles into your bones as though it has always been waiting for you. The memory of the people you encountered lingers in your mind, not sharply, not with details, but as a presence, as warmth, as the feeling of life that does not demand recognition, but offers connection. You remember the woman who scrubbed her linen at the stone wash basin, the pride in her posture, the satisfaction of her labor, the faint burn in her hands that spoke of effort and care. You remember the soap maker, with his bubbling pot of ash and tallow, proud and gentle, speaking of purity and blessing as though it were magic. You remember the bathhouse, its warmth and mist, the laughter, the gentle waves of steam rising like a soft curtain, hiding faces, and yet revealing something even more intimate. The shared humanity that made everyone equal beneath it. You remember the scent of herbs, of bread, of animals, of wet soil and hay, of smoke and candles, of sun-warmed linen flapping lazily in a breeze that seemed to carry the stories of generations. All of it, distilled into your memory, becomes something you carry in your chest like a gentle heartbeat, slow, steady and reassuring. Each inhalation now is deliberate, long and even, and with it, a wave of calm spreads through your body, starting at the top of your head, brushing down over your scalp, softening the tension there, releasing the tiny clenching in your temples. It flows over your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw, untangling thought from muscle, letting the small anxieties of the day dissolve into the quiet, gentle air. Your shoulders, weighted from centuries of imagined labor and your own real life, settle down with a sigh you almost hear, exhaling with the rhythm of the night itself. Your chest expands slowly and fully, filling your lungs with the rich tapestry of scents you have carried with you, the deep aroma of earth and fire, herb and smoke, sweat and humanity. And with each exhale, the day leaves your body piece by piece, floating away into the memory of the air. You notice your fingers now, resting lightly on your knees, soft and warm in their own presence. Each tiny muscle unwinds, releasing the traces of tension you did not even realize were there. Your arms follow loose, relaxed, your spine curves into comfort, aligning itself with the gentle pull of gravity, the invisible support of the earth beneath you, holding you safely as you drift not into sleep yet but into a state that almost mirrors it, a liminal space where consciousness softens, where thought slows, and where the long rhythm of history of human life and of the world itself folds gently into your awareness. You picture the streets you walked, empty now, silent, The faint glow of distant fires flickering like distant stars. The alleys seem smaller, calmer, tucked under the wide sky that blankets everything in its soft indigo arms. The smells of the town, now remembered rather than present, hang faintly in your mind like a perfume distilled from memory itself, not sharp but warm, not intrusive but enveloping. You realize that the world of the past is not distant. It is simply layered beneath this moment, like the gentle striations of sediment in a riverbed, quietly waiting for your attention. And when you pay attention, as you do now, the past is alive once more, breathing, soft and profoundly calming. You allow yourself to linger in this feeling, the quiet of the night, blending with the scents and textures of a world long gone. Imagining the soft glow of firelight on wooden beams, the flicker of candle flames in a low-ceilinged room, the murmur of voices just at the edge of hearing. You imagine the gentle sweep of a broom across a stone floor, the quiet plop of water dripping from a rooftop, the faint rustle of leaves outside a window. Each small sound, each small detail, becomes a thread in a tapestry that wraps around you, holding you steady, letting your mind float freely without need for worry or rush. Time stretches gently now, elongated, slowing further with each breath you take. Your lungs rise and fall like the tide, each inhalation drawing in the calm of centuries, each exhalation releasing the pull of the modern world and its endless demands. You feel your heartbeat slow, syncing almost imperceptibly with the rhythm of night, the ancient pulse of the earth, the quiet memory of people and streets and smells that have lingered beyond their own time. You are part of it now, not as an observer, but as a participant in the continuum of life, fully present and fully at rest, aware of history not as dates or facts, but as the living pulse that surrounds you in every breath, every heartbeat, every quiet sigh of the night air. The wind drifts softly across your skin, carrying faint scents of distant fields, dewy grass, and the delicate tang of stone warmed by the day's sun. Somewhere, a bird calls, almost muted, almost forgotten, and yet the sound carries clarity in the quiet. The rhythm of the night deepens. The sky overhead, endless and unbroken, stretches toward infinity, and with it, the sense of your own body, your own breath, your own presence, expands and folds into the gentle, eternal night. Every thought you have held, every worry, every task, every fleeting concern, drifts like smoke from a distant hearth, leaving only the soft, steady awareness of self, of place, of moment. Your eyelids grow heavier with each passing heartbeat, soft as petals folding over themselves, as if the weight of the world itself is easing them downward. The last traces of tension in your limbs dissolve into the soft gravity of the earth. Your mind, free now, floats through the corridors of memory and imagination alike, tracing the gentle path you have walked through history, through streets, alleys, bathhouses, fields and homes, through firelight and candlelight, through the very pulse of life that existed long before and will exist long after. You are part of that pulse, carried forward in calm and quiet, safe, warm and fully present. Every inhale carries you deeper, every exhale releases you further. The night folds around you like a protective cloak. You feel the warmth of past fires, the touch of wind on stone, the faintest brush of a linen sheet, the echo of laughter, the murmur of conversation, the subtle scent of herbs in the air, all of it swirling together into one steady, encompassing calm. You feel safe. You feel still. You feel at peace. Let your thoughts drift, like smoke rising and dissolving into a vast, unbroken sky. Let the long, gentle arc of your day and the centuries you have traveled fold into this singular, calming moment. Every breath pulls you deeper into the rhythm of the night. Every exhale releases everything else. You are held. You are safe. You are part of the great continuum of life, of history, of air and scent and light and quiet, carried forward into rest. Close your eyes fully now. Let your mind float. Let your body rest. Let every inch of you settle into stillness. Let the gentle pulse of the world, both past and present, carry you, cradle you, soothe you into the soft arms of night.